Okay, brilliant. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Sam.
Thank you for joining us at Midlife Makeover. Midlife Makeover ladies, as you know, I've been doing a series of interviews with people recently who are in the same line of work as I am in working with midlife women, and I came across this lady, Mary, on Facebook because both of us were giving some advice to a lady who was talking about what kind of panty pads to use that smelt nice because she was having problems with incontinence. And in a very gentle way, I think I wrote something and then you did, or the other way around. I can't remember, Mary, but I thought this lady is a lady after my own heart. This lady is singing from the same hymn sheet as I am. And so we made contact with each other.
Yeah.
And Mary and I have had lots of chats together about symptoms management of the perimenopause and menopause, and the people that she coaches, I think, Mary, are very very similar to the kind of people that I see, but obviously we have a different background, different skills and abilities. So I asked Mary if I could ask her one question and she would give her answer to me and to us to share in this forum today. So Mary, you've got somebody who says to you, I'm noticing that my body is changing, the way I'm feeling is changing, things don't feel quite the same as they used to. What's the first thing I can do to try and make myself just feel a bit more how I used to feel, a bit better?
Yes, so you're describing the results of the ups and downs of hormones that start happening when we go through what we tend to call the perimenopause and carries on through the menopause, which incidentally can start possibly from late 30s, early 40s, and a lot of women don't realise that it can start that early. So I'm sure, Sam, I've heard you say this before. The menopause is not an illness. It's not a condition. It's a natural stage of life. And I think that's a real clue as to what can help you feel as good as possible and help you get through it in a positive way. And I'm not saying that naively to suggest that it's all completely plain sailing, but there's a lot of sort of negative vibes out there, which I think could just make people freak and think, oh my God, it's going to be awful. It does not have to be awful. And there's a lot.
The alternative to not having a menopause is that you're not here. So
exactly.
We're very blessed, aren't we, that we are in this life phase.
Yeah, and I think there's an awful lot. I think a lot of the menopause is almost making you stop and review where you are and thinking where you are and creating some healthy habits and things that will actually make you, will help you enjoy the rest of your life more. So listen to your body. So yeah, so my kind of top tips for feeling as good as possible through this transition is, first of all, embrace it and feel positive about it and look forward to what it's bringing you. I mean, for some women, it can be a hard stage of life. There's lost opportunities, things going on in their life are difficult. But the more that you can do to embrace it positively, like you say, I've made it, I'm good, I've got these opportunities.
Okay.
Things have happened and I've got lots to look forward to. So you kind of hold beliefs and attitudes, and it's really easy to say that. And if you're listening to this and thinking, but I'm finding it hard,
Yeah.
How can you tell me just to cheer up about it? I'm not talking about that. It's not a sort of Pollyanna type, oh, it'll all be wonderful. Because there are ways of kind of working through your mindset. I've got things like affirmations, gratitude, mindfulness, all these things that I'm sure that you, Sam, have mentioned, you've heard other people talk about. They are real, they are scientifically proven. Personally, I can testify to the power of those. So having some...
Why don't you just tell us a little bit? So I've talked a little bit about gratitude in one of my 30-day challenges. Affirmations, gratitude. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about what the difference is between each of those and how they work then?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll start with affirmations. So affirmations are a way of reprogramming your brain in simple terms. They are a statement that you use, and you have to structure it in a particular way. You have to say it's in the present. It is something that you are doing, not something you would like to do, but something that you are doing. And it doesn't have to be something you absolutely believe where you are now, but you would like to believe, or you would like to move towards. So this is the thing, it's something you want to move to. So state, if you like, you want to move towards, but you use it in the present. So you, for example, you could say something like, I am growing healthier and happier every day.
Right.
And or I am in control of my health. Or this is a wonderful time of life I am enjoying. And you can say those and you can kind of go, well, it's all very well, but is it? But the point is, if that's really how you'd like to feel, and this sort of ideal feeling out there, by saying it in the present, your brain starts to reprogram and effectively starts to believe it. And you can use it for all elements of life. Maybe if you're creating your own business, I've used it a lot in my own business developments. Like you, Sam, I run my own small business, and we come across maybe things we don't quite believe. So about things you kind of don't quite believe, but you would like to, and they're really powerful at reprogramming the brain. So they're what are called a neuro hack when you look at the science of behavior change. Affirmations are lovely. Google affirmations, look at Pinterest, something like that, and you find some wonderful
some ideas to use. Yeah,
absolutely. So affirmations help you reprogram the brain and get you into a new mindset. Gratefulness is slightly different, because gratefulness is about maybe helping you see things in a slightly different light. I suppose there is a bit of reprogramming, but it's much more immediate. And again, there's proven science and evidence about how powerful this is. So gratefulness, ideally, I'd say it would be something every day you write down something you're grateful for. I use the 3 Ps, gratefulness, a person, I've been doing it for so long, I've now forgotten what they all stand for. It's a person, a possibility, and a place or thing, or person, place, and possibility. So first thing is a person, somebody I was grateful for today. It could have been a loved one, a friend, or it could have been someone at the checkout who just smiled at me. So someone in the day made you feel, smile, or feel happy, or you thought that person was doing something nice. It could have been just someone commenting on your Facebook. So a person. And the next thing is a place or something that you did, or a situation. So something you did, you enjoyed. Yeah, and it could have been, a major achievement. I won a contract in business. Or it could have been the sun came out. You could have been, I saw a bird flying and actually I enjoyed that moment.
Yeah.
And in some ways, the simpler the better. This isn't necessarily about the big things.
Yeah.
And the third is a possibility. It's something you're looking forward to.
Right. Okay, that's good.
And however rubbishy day you've had, you should be able to find 3 things. Or you just literally list 3 things. But I like those 3 Ps. So gratefulness helps you get in a frame of mind where you appreciate things more, and effectively it helps you become a bit more positive.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really good. Thank you. Mary, can we just stop for a second?
Yeah.
Just pausing. So Mary, we've done 2 really important things, I think. We've done the gratitude and we've done the affirmations. And certainly the affirmations is something I know about, but I must admit it's not something I use. So I will think about that. What other tips do you have? What are your sort of tool bag of tips that you might give to somebody to help them deal with what's going on at the moment?
And that's such a good question, because the easy answer is it's different for everybody. But if I had to pick one thing that is probably going to apply to everybody in some degree, it's about managing the stress response.
Absolutely.
Now, I say that in a particular way because I'm sure everyone watching this, everyone sort of interested in this world will have heard about stress and the effects of stress. And if I said, well, just get rid of all the stress in your life, you would probably switch off and say, but I have a life, I live, I do things. That's inherent. So you know, although there is a place for reviewing the stresses in your life and considering, especially some of the bigger ones, and maybe some of the little daily ones you can tweak, like not going on your phone first thing in the morning so you've got a bit more time just to get your head space before you start dealing with your emails and your social media. You know, there are techniques for that. But what I actually talk about more is understanding the stress response and finding techniques for reducing it. So we have stresses in our life. It's a given. You might be able to moderate them, but they're not going to go. When there is a stress, like, I know the train's late, or you're doing a big presentation and you're nervous, or so something in social media, you haven't got the likes or responses, or something's getting out of control, or someone said the wrong thing. All these things are stresses. Our body has one stress response, and biologically our bodies are adaptive when we lived in caves, and funnily enough we didn't have social media and late trains then and things like that. So our stress response was designed to deal with life or death. You know, we got stressed when the lion was running towards us. It might sound like a cliche, but that's, if you understand that biologically, that's what we're doing. So our body then, it says, right, I've got this lion coming towards me. What do I need to prioritize now biologically? And I can tell you that managing your hormonal imbalances is not high on your list, because you might have seconds or a couple of minutes to live, and really your body's got to work out how to get your skates on or how to fight back. See, fight or flight response. So if you are faced with lots of stresses and your body is constantly going to stress response, it switches off your hormone production, your hormone balance, your hormone management, and also a lot of things to do with eating and food. And I mean, I'm sure I know you talked about, Sam, the whole diet thing, what you eat, is definitely there on my list. If you're not finding ways of switching off this stress response and managing it, then your body is you're not allowing your body to perform the hormonal functions you need it to make. And, you know, as our hormones are going up and down through perimenopause, and then down and down, and to where I am, which is post-menopause, I don't have the same estrogen and progesterone as before. So I want my body to be making as much of it as possible, even though it's smaller levels. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the things that I have heard people say is, I don't get a train, I'm not stressed. And I think up until your sort of mid-30s, we think of stress as being something that literally makes you stressed, rather than stressors that are around us. The mere fact you have to be somewhere by a certain time is in itself a stress, because your brain is having to think, I've got to be there. Even if you're not stressed about it, it becomes.
That's right,
stressor.
because to get there, you need to be focused, your brain needs to be working out what it's doing, so your body is switching a biological function. And just to add to that comment about whether it's a stressor or we are stressed biologically, other stressors that noise to your end, so we're right. So I could just hear something and just make sure it wasn't.
We were right, yeah.
Another really big area of stress is diet. So if anyone is eating a diet, for example, that's got sugar in it, alcohol, processed foods, something that you are intolerant of possibly, and top of the list is typically gluten and dairy, but not exclusively that. And that does not apply to everybody, so I'm not saying everyone go gluten dairy free, but these are stresses on the body, and the body's going, what's going on? I can't deal with this. And again, it's switching off the ability to manage your hormones.
That's right.
So it's a very, very broad set of like interventions or inputs that are making us stress, but there's one stress response, and that is not good for our hormones.
It's a little bit like my computer is right now. I think I've got 18 tabs open.
And you've no idea where the music's coming from.
And you have to turn down or close all those tabs, don't you?
Yeah. So,
all have to be closed.
yeah. So, I mean, in terms of what could do about it, as I mentioned earlier, of course, is the place reviewing what, like you said, Sam, we can traditionally consider to be the stresses and what are causing us stress.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend to focus more on what we can build in, either as daily practices that give our bodies regular breaks. So we go into restore or thrive or rest and digest. Those are all terms used for the mode where we want to be, that will allow our hormones to start doing their stuff and balancing and managing themselves properly. So you've got things like sort of maybe more formal things like mindfulness, meditation, the gratitude, affirmations, that type of thing. And by the way, affirmations, you need to do lots and lots. So you write it down, stick them on post-it notes everywhere, put them as pop-ups on your phone. But anyway, I've talked about that before. But you've also got things like going out in nature. Nature is an amazing way of calming down your body's stress response. Exercise, I don't need to tell you about that. I'll leave you to discuss about exercise. But I'm not necessarily talking here about, in fact, I'm definitely not talking about hard exercise, because that in itself is a stressor on our body. But going out for walks, going out in nature, doing a bit of gardening, seeing friends, go to the pub and have a laugh with them. That in itself will switch off our stress response if we're doing something we enjoy. A hobby, an activity you've always wanted to do. It doesn't matter whether you're good at it or not, but you know, maybe this is a time to say, I'm going to join that class. And I don't know if you talked about a flow, being in a state of flow.
No.
So getting yourself in what's called a flow state is a great way of, if you like, switching off the body stress response. Do you have, if you've got kids or remember being as a child, if sometimes a child could be sitting there colouring something in and you're talking to them and they're not paying attention. I don't mean they're being rude, because there's also that, but they literally can't hear you because they are so focused on their activity. They are in what's called a state of flow. Their whole being and mind is focused on something. And that typically tends to be something kind of creative, but I say creative in the widest sense of the word. So it might be drawing or sewing or sculpturing, that kind of creative. It could be creating something for a business or work, so you're focused on some kind of project, but you get in the moment so much that you lose sense of what's going on around you. And that's very, very powerful to be in that flow state, if you can find something. I'll tell you what I did. I've taken up jigsaw puzzles. I know that might sound really strange. I used them years ago. Saw someone doing it. I thought, that's great. And when I do it, I put some music on. I just sit there and I love it. I'm just lost in my own world.
Lovely. That's great tips. I think the hobby thing's very interesting. I remember somebody asking me not long ago, and people who know me went through this sort of journey with me. What's your hobby? I haven't got a hobby. I've forgotten what it's like to have a hobby. I haven't had a hobby for so many years because I've been a mum and a wife and a business owner, and I've forgotten. And actually, in the last 3 years, I've really tried to turn that around. And because it's all about time, isn't it? If you have a hobby, you have to take the time to put yourself first. And most of us haven't done that for a long time.
And that's so important. Don't even get me started in prioritizing yourself and not feeling guilty. And I go back to a comment I said right at the beginning. I think part of what happens through menopause is it makes us stop and reflect. It's almost like these symptoms are saying, listen to yourself. You need to put yourself higher up your priority list. And if that means finding a way of creating time, you could maybe start with a hobby just by doing some YouTube videos for half an hour once a week. And build it up. Maybe going to a class is too much. But I think as women, we are, and I count myself in this, I find it really hard to not feel bad about just taking time out for myself. But actually, we need to do that to be strong for everyone around us. It's not optional, it's not guilty. And I think learning that whole sense of who we are and our priority is really important for helping us feel better, and that will let go of some of these unwanted symptoms.
So there's a piece of research that's just been done that in effect, Mary, says that if you have positive thoughts about yourself as you go into menopause and out the other side, in fact, it's quite probable that your symptoms won't be nearly as bad as if you think it's going to be all doom and gloom. Is that something you see in your practice?
Absolutely, yes, it is. And the interesting thing about that is that it's, I think, because some women just don't get symptoms or don't get many symptoms that they're not really bothered by it. And there's lots of, I mean, that's a whole different subject as to the sorts of evidence as to what leads up. But if you got to the point where you are getting really unwanted symptoms, and you maybe you're listening to this and thinking, do you know what, I do think it's rubbish. I'm not sure I've got positive. You can do something about it. So I don't want you to think it's just you happen to be that way and it will be all right and that's that.
Yeah.
It is something that you can change and work on, and that's absolutely sort of thing like a gratitude diary. Your three things: your person, your pleasure, and your possibility, are really powerful. So yes, that whole sort of attitude and mindset, as well as lots of tools. I mean, I've just talked about a couple of them. I put breathing techniques quite high up, in terms of breathing gives your body information, and if you suddenly start, like, your heart's beating because you're worried or anxious about something, or you're late for a train, that kind of thing, that gives body information. And actually, by controlling your breathing, you are resetting the information your body's receiving, and it can come out of that stress response and go, all right, I can go back to moving, making hormones. Whatever happens to the train, the hormones are there. So yeah, absolutely.
In summary, I think that just correct me if I'm wrong, that you have told us that the importance of affirmations, and we can do that multiple times a day, and having that affirmation, and presumably it's the same one for a while, and then you maybe change. Is that right?
You certainly will need to say the same one, but you could have several. You could have several of them. It's things like, I am making changes that are helping me, for example. Just simple things, and you can look up. There are some wonderfully grand, deep and meaningful, but yes, you need to say them repeatedly to get your brain till it starts to believe it, basically.
Right. So there's the affirmations, there's the gratitude, and you talked about three things: person, place, and
person, pleasure. I said place, didn't I? But I meant pleasure.
Right. Something you're going for.
Person, pleasure, and possibility. I like that because it kind of makes you think broadly.
Yeah, lovely. Okay. And also, I think it's a little bit of a woolly comment, but giving yourself time to do things that make you happy, in effect. That sort of restoring your brain to a place where it's just having a nice time, whether it's doing a jigsaw puzzle, listening to classical music, and some people might hate that, or being outside for a walk or whatever.
Absolutely. It's about giving your space, prioritizing yourself. It's interesting because you said, oh, this was a bit woolly, and about giving yourself space. I wish that we could have a prescription for that, to give women permission, because we find it so hard to let go of all those caring responsibilities, whether we've had families, whether it's been career, partners, aging parents,
or all of the above.
Yeah, absolutely. And we put ourselves there for everybody else, but actually we need to be strong to be able to do that. It's not selfish. It's about creating the strength in yourself so you can do that for others.
Great. Well, I think, Mary, we could go on and on and on, but I know
we could. I don't know how long we've taken.
We need to give people some time to restore and assimilate the information and take from it what they think is going to be useful for them. So all I'll say is thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really, really interesting talking to you, and perhaps you'll come back and do some more tips with us.
Yeah. Oh, that was a real pleasure, Sam. Yeah. Lovely catching up with you again.
Really good. Thank you very much. And Midlife Makeover people, do share this. Do share it with your friends. Visit Mary's Facebook page, Bloom with Mary. Is that right, Mary?
Bloom with Mary is my website. So bloomwithmary.co.uk. But my Facebook group, if you want to find me, is Blooming Menopause.
Blooming Menopause. That's right. That's all right. So yeah, do go and have a ferret around and see if you can find Mary on Tinterweb. She'd love to meet you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Love to see you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you
Thanks.
again
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.